JWK S1E4 Stanford Doctor Introduction.
So my path to medicine has been a little bit sort of not really out of the ordinary, but not very sort of linear.
Sure.
When I was a kid, I wanted to be an astronaut, and then that transitioned to me wanting to be an engineer.
Okay.
And I've always loved math and science, and so I wanted to do engineering as a kid. Wasn't really sure what type, but I was thinking about like maybe aerospace engineering. But as it came sort of closer time to pick a major in college, I ended up going for chemical engineering, largely because my dad's a chemical engineer and my mom's a chemist.
Oh, damn.
There's a lot of chemical engineers in my family. My brother's actually a chemical engineer too.
What?
He's younger than me, but we all ended up doing chemical engineering. So I chose chemical engineering, and then really sort of wasn't sure whether I was going to apply to medical school. I had actually, simultaneously applied to some BSMD programs. You're probably familiar with BSMD programs. They're basically combined programs where out of high school you can get a guaranteed acceptance into an MD program. And so I applied to a few of those and was accepted to one of them, but I turned it down just because I wasn't sure if I wanted to do medicine at that point. And so I did engineering for a while and did an engineering internship after freshman year. And I liked it. And then after that, I actually applied for some consulting internships, like strategy consulting.
Okay.
And ended up not getting any of those positions. And so I think at that point I sort of realized like I was going down a path that I wasn't really that excited about.
Sure.
And in the back of my head, medicine had always been brewing. And I think simultaneous to me deciding that the sort of engineering consulting path wasn't for me, I realized that medicine was for me. I had done some shadowing and I had done some medical research as well at Vanderbilt and really decided that medicine was a great fit. And so I applied to medical school, and throughout medical school wasn't really entirely sure what I wanted to do. I loved clinical care, but I also knew that I wanted to sort of combine medicine with some other sort of interdisciplinary type interest.
Yeah.
And I think over time that for me has developed into media. And so I want to find ways to combine medicine and media, in particular, like probably down the journalism route or video making route. Creating content for the layperson to understand medical concepts more easily would be something that I'd be pretty interested in. So working as an emergency physician, but also working with some sort of news outlet or some sort of production team to produce content for people to understand medicine at their level,
Yeah.
Because not everyone sort of has the background or the resources to sort of dissect complex medical updates or news or research. And so I think it's important to be able to communicate those things to the layperson. So that's kind of where I feel like my career path is headed towards, but obviously, things change very rapidly. And being at Stanford, there's so many resources. So I'm sure that something might come along and my interest may change. I'm sure that happens.
It does kind of tie in. One of the reasons that drove me towards medicine was to kind of better understand the field of medicine, which is kind of shrouded in mystery and it's difficult words and complex myriad hospital campuses that you can't really navigate through. I came into the path of wanting to be an engineer. Actually, to your point earlier, I grew up in Houston, right next to Johnson Space Center. So I also grew up wanting to be an astronaut.
Were you in Clear Lake?
Yeah, I was in Clear Lake. My dad worked at NASA.
You went to Clear Lake High School?
Yeah.
So that's so funny. My significant other, maybe you know her, Pooja Yesantara.
You know Pooja? Yeah, I know Pooja. I know her. Yeah, I know her. Her younger sister? Yeah.
You graduated Leica, probably, right? No,
she was a year younger or something. No way. You're engaged or married?
Yes. So yeah.
No way. Yeah. She was a year above me. She was always the super child in high school.
The super. Yeah, we met in med school.
Oh, okay.
And then Yeah, we met in med school.
What a
and we've been
small
dating ever
world.
since, Yeah,
That's actually wild.
yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you like where in Houston you were from. I didn't realize it would be Clear Lake, like actually
Yeah.
Clear Lake High School. That's amazing.
But yeah, wow, small world.
Yeah.
But yeah, I came into the path. I was interested in engineering and innovation, and there's a couple different paths. I always thought I might do like a PhD or something because I was more interested in the technology and science world. But then I got interested in entrepreneurship and thought maybe I should go into industry. But ultimately, it settled on medicine because I was always interested in the kind of healthcare tie-in. And I felt like, you can go down different pathways in tech or in PhD land and not always end up in healthcare. You can end up in different paths. And I felt also the biggest value add, at least to my education and what I felt like I needed to understand better at that point in my life was the medical world. So
At that point, being in high school or college?
this was in college. So this would probably be my junior year of college. And I think that was around the time I'd still been kind of undecided about whether to do med school, but on that path, and then I settled on it.
I'll make sure to give it permission to upload your likeness. Okay. Sorry.
No problem.
So you decided in college you wanted to pursue medicine?
Yeah.
Okay. What? And did you just explain that, or is there more layers to that discovery?
Let's see. I think for a while, I'd set out in college, unfortunately being pre-medical or going into med school is a rigorous path with lots of courses and training and stuff. So it's something, if you're considering, I'd say keep the doors open as long as you can. So take the required curriculum and try to do well on your...
A good topic is how to decide if medicine is right for you. I have a lot of feelings about this.
Ooh.
So
Perfect time to.
yeah. It's not. I think one of the issues I've always found is a lot of people that I ran into in college who were interested in medicine always kind of turned me off with their passion or their drive.
Yeah.
Because it was like you had to walk in day one to general chemistry or something and know you were going to become a doctor.
Yeah.
And I was not of that ilk. I was vehemently, trying to explore during my college years and see what would be good. But I knew medicine was cool, and it's very cool, I'll tell you later, but I didn't know if that was the right path for me. And so I think I was always kind of turned off initially, but you got to keep the doors open. So, take the classes that will allow you to go down that path if you are interested, and, try to keep your grades up and try to keep your opportunities open to it. Because if you don't, and you don't take the curriculum that you need to, or it can be hard to get back on the path. There are options, certainly, but you can do a post-bac program, you can do all kinds of things, but I think it's easier keeping an open mind up front and then diverting away from medicine if you don't want to, which is a fine thing to do.
I'm glad you brought that up. I felt very similarly. This concept of knowing that medicine is your dream and is your passion, I think, is an artificial barrier that is placed on people and prevents a lot of people from pursuing medicine. I think it's really something that shouldn't be stressed as much to pre-meds. It's a classic thing of everyone says medicine's a long path. You have to live, breathe, die medicine, and you have to be super passionate about it. And I'm going to be very honest with you. I've been successful in the medical realm, and I never had that passion. I developed that passion in medical school, actually. And I think that's what happens to most people. The genuine passion, I think, comes when you're exposed to medicine. I think very few people truly have this authentic understanding of what it truly means to be excited about medicine, just because it's impossible to be exposed as a non-medical person. Obviously there's some cases where some people have different careers and then decide on medicine and this and that, and I think in those cases it makes sense. But for the average pre-medical student that's coming from high school and just pursuing a biology degree in college, there's no way that they have enough exposure into medicine to really be able to truly say I have a passion for being a doctor. Yeah. Also, the other part is that even if you enter medical school and realize that clinical medicine is not for you, there's a million different opportunities that you can pursue just by having an MD. You can do consulting work, you can do research, you can do public policy, you can do
Public health, epidemiology, those are all big ticket
you can
items.
do consulting. You can also pursue specialties that have less sort of bedside interactions, you know?
Yeah.
There's dozens of opportunities, you know, to use your degree. And I think it's kind of counterproductive to tell pre-meds like you have to know 100% that you want to be a doctor in order to apply to medical school.
Yeah, your concept of a doctor, at least my concept, and I would say I had at least seen the medical world a little bit before college even. But your concept is just so skewed. I mean, most people, their interaction with a doctor is usually like a family care practitioner, someone in the community, maybe some emergency room doctors.
Yeah.
You know, rarely all the other the additional doctors like the anesthesiologist, radiologist, pathologist that fill the hospital doing things that you probably don't even realize. There's so many paths once you're in medicine. And yeah, to think that like you need to know, you need to run into save people's lives like when you're a freshman in college, it's just
It's like,
unfathomable to me still.
so like you brought up, like it's like almost a part of actually being in medicine and exploring and seeing all the different like options you have after is sort of a reason why people might not be sure they want to go into medicine, because they have this one idea of their family doctor or whatever going into college or something, and they're like, oh, I definitely don't want to do that. So then they're like turned away from medicine as a whole field.
I think that's a minority. I think most people see that role model and say, I want to do that, but the world is telling me that medicine is really hard and a really arduous path, and I'm not entirely 100% sure that I want to go down that path, because I'm not entirely 100% sure that I love medicine to death.
Right.
And so then it's probably not right for me, because that person over there, who's an amazing pre-med, probably loves medicine more than I do, and I don't love his medicine as much as he does, so I'm not going to do it.
Right.
That was definitely some fears that I had. You know, I'm like over here about to matriculate to medical school, and I'm on the phone with like some of my mentors being like, am I doing the right thing? I mean, I enjoy medicine. I think this would be a fine career path, but I'm not over there like Joe Bob, who's, you know, wanted to be a cardiac surgeon since day one. I mean, that's not me.
Yeah. He's crushing all of his I remember, like, you know, struggling through some pre-medical courses or things like that. And, you know, Vanderbilt's a tough place and they teach you well, but it's also hard. And I remember struggling through, like, biochemistry at one point and, like, failing an exam and being like, if I can't get through biochem, how am I going to go to med school? Like, that's, you know, a huge part of medicine. And, you know, I was able to right the ship and do well after it. But I think it's, you know, it's hard to sit there and see like, oh, these other people are about to go to med school and they're getting A's on all these exams, and I'm sitting here like, this is a struggle for me. But I think it's okay. Like you'll have struggles, and you'll also, I don't think everyone's path to medicine is the same as each other. You know, some people come at it from very different viewpoints. You take different approaches to your medicine. I mean, to the way you practice, how you learn.
The other, it's related to that, but something that really made me question whether medicine was the right path for me was the fact that a lot of pre-meds were pursuing all of these clinically related extracurriculars, and I wasn't doing much of it at all, just because I wasn't really interested in using my time in college to, you know,
shadow 400 hours.
Shadow 400 hours, go
It's
volunteer
ridiculous.
400 hours. Like, I thought, man, like if I would rather use my time doing other things, then is medicine right for me? And I think that's also a pretty dangerous concept. You, of course, have to have some sort of clinical exposure for your own decision-making process. Like, you have to get enough exposure to decide whether medicine's right for you. And I had achieved that level of exposure. I did enough clinical, activities to know that medicine was a good field for me. But beyond that, I felt like I wanted to use my time in other ways, like, doing cultural showcases or, volunteering in non-clinical realms. But that gave me a lot of sense of doubt, this person over there is the president of the, you know, pre-med society, and they're like, you know, doing this, they're running the volunteering thing at the hospital, and they're doing this, like, I don't know, scribing, they're like a scribe, and they're an EMT, and this and that.
Yeah,
and
the model pre-med student.
yeah, the model pre-med.
Yeah, they check. I think you check a lot of the boxes, or you know, you add hours and hours of shadowing under all these dozens of specialties. Which, I mean, you know, if that's what you ultimately find you need
Yeah,
to
no,
do
that's
to make
great.
a decision,
I mean,
do it.
yeah.
But I fully agree with once you, there are certain things that once you've reached the decision-making capacity, you know, you don't have to keep pursuing. For me, that was like, I loved research. I love doing research and building things and testing them out. And, you know, I continue to do that in almost all my free time, as opposed to tons and tons of clinical hours. But there are many of my classmates whose research would be like the lowest of they'd be like, I hate research. And, you know, research is kind of a part of medicine, so you got to do a little bit. But once you check that box, you know, you don't need to go back to it, and you can go do the other things. For me, it was the opposite. But I mean, it's you know, everyone should carve their own kind of path, and I think don't hold yourself to someone else's standard. You know, try and stay true to what you value. That'll be communicated well during your application, as well as during everything in medicine that comes after.